Welcome to the Good Leadership Podcast, where we explore the stories, strategies, and insights of thought leaders to inspire us to think differently and lead better. What does it mean to truly inspire and empower others? Spoiler alert, it's not about how many orders you can give. It's about how many minds and hearts you can move. For this discussion, joining me once again is Christine Comaford, who has over 35 years of experience as a leadership and culture coach. Christine has helped countless organizations navigate growth and change with remarkable speed and proven results. She is also a New York Times bestselling author, a serial entrepreneur, and a human behavior expert. In this episode, we're going to look into those simple but powerful phrases that foster greater influence, engagement, and encourage innovation. Christine reminds us that the journey of transformation requires navigating resistance, refining plans through collaboration, and reinforcing new habits until they become the standard. So get ready for practical tools and powerful insights that will not only improve your leadership, but will transform your teams. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Good Leadership Podcast, where we engage with esteemed thought leaders and explore research-backed strategies and techniques that empower leaders at every level to achieve meaningful results that drive lasting change. You're right. Success with accountability requires that we help provide structures and containers so our team can stay in their smart state. Trust and ego flare-ups put us back into our critter state, so try to minimize those whenever possible. The next accelerator is influence. There's a lot of talk about influence, but what is real influence according to you, and what have you defined it as?
Yes, thanks, Charles. I find so many books on influence, frankly, give me the creeps. They're a bit about manipulation, domination, control. Yuck. We've all had that experience where someone's trying to do that to us and we're like, ooh, get away. True influence is looping arms with someone subconsciously and walking forward to a mutually beneficial future. Mutually beneficial future. Because if it's not benefiting us both, it's not so good. Okay, it's in the gray zone. So what I find is if we can come together, again that great word, and we can work together and we can use the outcome frame and some of our other smart tribes tools, then everybody's aligned. Then everybody wants to be part. Then when we say things like, well, what if we try such and such, and we throw it out there and we let people bat it around, we let them create their own additions. We need to ask a lot more questions as leaders because so many leaders say to me, well, I've got like all these order takers. It's like, well, someone's an order giver if you have a bunch of order takers. So if you want more innovation, ask questions, draw people out. So I need your help. That's great. You get small. That causes them to have to get big. Hey, I need your help with this. I really don't know how to do this. You're much better at this than I am. Okay. Would it be helpful if someone's in critter state? Hey, would it be helpful if, and just start throwing ideas out and you're curious. They're gonna shoot a few down. That's okay. When they're in critter state, you need to ask them questions to pop them into assessing. Was that a good suggestion or a bad suggestion? Good. Now they're in their prefrontal cortex. Okay. So we want to help people by drawing them out and by, again, giving them safety, belonging, mattering to speak their language, safety, belonging, or mattering, whatever they currently need. And then ultimately, we want to learn metaprograms, which is like the Jedi, level of total connection. I don't know if you know this about me. In my volunteer work, I work with hospice. I'm called a death doula. I walk people through their death process, and I have to gain rapport with them like right away because hospice brings me in. Sometimes I've only got like one or two sessions with them before it's all over. So I use these tools: safety, belonging, mattering, metaprograms, which is understanding, are they more toward get, attain, achieve, or away, solve problems, mitigate risk? Options, lots of choice and possibility, or procedures, just tell me the proven process. General, high level, net, or no, I need the specifics. And those are a couple, an active or reflective. Go, 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 let's make a decision, or I need to consider, ponder, understand. When we understand somebody's key four meta programs, we can then speak their language, which helps their creature neurology stop running safety patterns and say, Ah, this person is like me. We want to do that at work as well. We want the creature neurology to say, okay, this person is like me. And we register that subconsciously because somebody is speaking from our stance, speaking from our metaprograms. We don't have to do it all the time. We just do it in tricky situations.
Is there one meta program that you find more common with leaders that's not serving them?
Often, two, two metaprograms that can be tricky. Some leaders are very toward get, attain, achieve, go, go, go. And they're calling the people who say, just a sec, let's pause and reflect and let's slow down a little bit because I have some questions. Oh, don't be a buzzkill. Let's go, go, go. We'll sell our way through this challenge. No, we actually have to unpack what the challenge is so we can actually solve it properly. So to ward away can be tricky. And then also similar, active, reflective. Just do it. Let's ask a few questions. Let's slow down a little bit. So too much speed, not enough reflection.
Love that. And I can personally attest to that as well as to the leaders that I talk with that the time for reflection is minimal these days. They feel overwhelmed and they're in execute mode all the time. And I love what you say about real influence. It's about empowering others. And you say, here's the thing. It's not about how many people you can tell what to do. It's about how many people you can understand, empower, and motivate. And with those three influencing phrases, what if, I need your help, and would that be helpful if, that provides that great lead in to becoming more influential in the right manner. The more influential you become, the more you're putting yourself at the service of your team. Many people don't realize that because real influence is, once again, all about empowering others and making sure that that's front and center in our minds at all times. So I love that approach. And you mentioned some stats in that area of the research as well, that 90% of our reactions are emotional, and our emotions respond 400 times faster than our intellect. So be mindful of that when you're trying to influence others and making sure that you speak to that emotional side of them as well.
I want to add one last thing, which is a day comes for all effective leaders when they realize they can only do so much. Really, the most important thing is how much can I get done through others? That's scalability, that's leverage. And to get all these amazing things achieved, we do very little on our own. This electricity, somebody else did that. This desk, somebody else built that. These computers, somebody else built that. It's humbling to say, wow, I actually achieved one little thing and I need everybody else's help. So the more we realize a good leader enrolls and engages people emotionally, helps them feel safety, belonging, mattering, uses the smart tribes accelerators and tools. And that's how we get that tremendous productivity.
But that's hard for individual contributors moving into that people manager role because now they're not being judged by their own efforts, but by the efforts of their team. And that's a mindset shift that's difficult for some, and some that aren't even prepared to have it. They're kind of either forced or pushed into that role, which makes it even more difficult for them. Well, the final accelerator is sustainable results. So, what does sustainability mean in the context of team performance, and why is it critical for long term success?
So here's the thing, we see burnout all the time, unfortunately, way more than we used to. And burnout comes from a couple of things, and we have to pay attention to that. We only have so much energy that we can allocate to work because we have busy personal lives as well. And sustainability is about, again, back to high value, low values. There's only so much we can do. Let's do the stuff that matters. Let's create enough safety, belonging, mattering so that when our boss over delegates, we can say, oh, just a sec. I can do that new project you just gave me. However, these other two will need to be bounced back by 2 weeks. Can we get an agreement on that? We have to create enough safety and communication so that we can actually help our leader balance our workload so we don't burn out. I see a lot of people job jumping because they're just work is just piled and piled and piled on them with no regard for the importance of passion, okay, play, and release. We have to have that at work. We have to be passionate about what we do. When we burn people out, they lose all their passion. We have to have some playfulness, some ability to see each other as equals, to have some fun now and then, and we have to have a release, the ability to just blow off some steam and go. And it has to be safe in our culture for us to go outside and walk around the block 3 times, just to clear our head. So sustainability problems I find come up when people aren't releasing stress energy, when we aren't communicating, whoa, I can't take on all that work right now. It's not realistic, or let's change my work allocation. And when there's just deletion from the leader and they're just not even present to the fact that their people are totally fried. Sustainability is being able to consistently provide quality, reliable results.
Excellent understanding of that. And you're right. Overwhelm it's very common these days. And you're running a marathon, not a sprint. So that you need that sustainability over time to produce the results that you want for your team and your organization.
Yes.
We've talked about a lot of the techniques, the tools, the tips around smart tribes. I love to now focus on the keys to starting your smart tribe, because unless these keys are in place, it's going to be really difficult. And that first key is unpacking those 6 distinct levels of change. And this comes from the social scientist Gregory Batesman. And it's starting. You can start from the outside in, but you recommend starting from the inside out in having that change that lasts. So if we could perhaps go through those just to give our leaders listening just insights into each one of those layers and why it's more beneficial to start from the inside out.
Yes. So the layers are, and this is from let's go outside in on the layers because that's where leaders usually make change. And that's why they don't work. Environment, capability, so skills, okay, behavior, belief or beliefs, identity, core. The reason I'm such a nut about mission, vision, values is that's our core. That's who we are together. That's why we work here. That's the dent that we're making in the universe, as Steve Jobs would say. That's our legacy. That's the difference that we're making so that the world knows we were here. We're not inconsequential. We all need to know that. So when we have that core, then our identity is identity is beliefs about self. I am making a difference. I have the ability to do this job, whatever. I am capable. I am valued, etc. Beliefs are beliefs outside of things outside of us. So the company cares about me. The company is honorable. Our products and services are valuable. Okay. Then I want us to think about our capabilities, what skills we're learning, what skills we are growing. Um, Back to individual development plans. And then what behaviors do we have? And then what's the environment like? So often a company will reorg. That's an environment change, moving the desk chairs or moving the deck chairs around on the Titanic. Right? We're rearranging things, but we're not fundamentally changing people's experience. So this is why the vast majority of people who sign up for gym memberships in January have stopped by February because they change their environment. Okay, I'm going to go to the gym. They change their behavior. I'm going to take myself to the gym. They change their capability. I'm going to learn how to lift weights, but they stop there. They don't go into the beliefs because living long matters. My family will benefit from my being more fit. Um, I can feel better and do more identity. I will feel better and do more by taking care of my body because it's all about taking care of my loved ones and being of service to my community, right? When we go through all 6 levels, we get to the emotion, which enables sustainable change.
What I learned from James Clear in Atomic Habits, that really behavior change is all about identity change. So it's all about the words you use and how you frame it to say, I go and run versus I'm a runner, right? So it's really having that change because, like you mentioned, behavior change is tough. People are resistant to change. They don't want to change.
Yeah.
And you have to frame it in the right context, which we're going to get to in just a minute.
Yeah.
But getting back to these 6 layers, you find that a lot of people spend most of their time trying to change the outer 3 layers: the environment, the behavior, the capability. They don't spend enough time, and that deals with the symptoms. They don't spend enough time on the system, right? Which is the inner rings, those beliefs, the identity, and the core in your culture. And that's really critical. If you want to change it, you need to change it from the inside out. And then key 2 is really about understanding your present state versus your desired state.
That's why the outcome frame is so great. The outcome frame, those 6 questions, is so great because we're taking people into the future and they're test driving it. That's why asking those questions is so important and going deep on them, not just like having 1 or 2 answers, really diving deep on, what would I like? And what really will having that do for me? What are the benefits going to be? How will I specifically, with proof and criteria, know that I got it? Ooh, what might I risk or lose? The ego question, because there's always an ego cost. That's why we don't have it yet. Where exactly would I like this change? And what specifically are my next steps? And as we dive into that, we are actually, our brain is firing visual, auditory, kinesthetic cues and we are test driving that glorious future. That's why when you do an outcome frame, you've got to do it for at least 15 minutes. And I know people say 15 minutes, that's forever. Well, just a sec. If you have 6 questions and you're going to answer them in tremendous depth and do 3 or 4 passes to make sure you got them all, then you will actually have the visual, auditory, kinesthetic cues, and your brain will say, this is not a fantasy. This is something I am actually starting to create. Takes all the dreaminess about it. "Oh, it's a dream." No, you're actually doing it. It's possible. We've started it already.
Well, and then key 3, the organizational change adoption path, which I love. I think it's could be applied individually as well as for an organizational level, because not everyone in your organization, which I hopefully this is not a surprise to any leaders, is going to embrace and celebrate change. Every leader knows that's the biggest challenge, right? Initially is that resistance. But you mentioned, first people start with resistance. Why? Because they see it as something that is undesirable. But if you just change some of the wording and the way it's framed, that it's really just an improvement to what we already have. Remove the bad stuff, keep the good stuff, and don't say change. Say growth.
And leaders often defend against resistance. I love resistance. Resistance is so much better than apathy. Apathy is the worst. If they don't care, it's like now I've got to poke them with a stick to get them in fight, flight, freeze, so I can then get them in their smart state. So if somebody resists, that's awesome. Because we need to say, well, oh, this is such a stupid thing. Ah, thank you. What's stupid about it? And we start asking questions. And then we start to enjoy the fact that they are mocking the change. Don't get shut down by resistance or mockery. If they mock the change and we say, you know what? That it is kind of stupid. If we were to change this and that, what do you think? Ah, I would try it, but it's still totally a stupid policy. Okay, thanks. Thanks for trying it. So we loop on resistance mockery, and then we start to loop. I love this part on mockery usefulness. Before we know it, they're helping us make it something that they can agree with. And now they've been doing it for so long because they keep mocking and we keep, enhancing and they keep using it that now it's habitual. It's habitual. And now they can move into the new standard. So, yeah, resistance is great. Get them mocking as quickly as possible. Loop on usefulness. Then we'll get to habitual because they've been using it for so long. Then new standard. Then you can bask in the afterglow until the next change.
I love those 5 phases. It's so essential. It's a nice framework and structure to have, not only, like I said, for an organization level when a leader's trying to do that with their teams, but even at an individual level as well, just to get you to adopt new behaviors,
Yeah.
overcome that resistance that everyone encounters when they try something new and trying to build good habits. I love to end with the 4 factors of sustainable tribes. We've talked about them throughout some of it. Haven't really talked about organizational effectiveness, so we'll spend a little more time on that. But Kind of give us a high level overview of those four factors, and then let's dive a little bit deeper into that one.
Yes. So, mission, vision, values, because that helps us understand how to be part of the tribe and what the behavior standards are. So, mission, vision, values helps us behave in a way that is appropriate to be in the tribe. Then we have leadership effectiveness, which we've been talking about today, and then organizational effectiveness. And organizational effectiveness really is about understanding how the mission, vision, values is your emotional foundation. Then we actually need an accountability foundation so we can trust each other. We need accountability structures. We also need to make sure that we have consistency, consistent quality, standard operating procedures, etc. I think it's awesome that a ton of our clients used to do written SOPs for just repetitive tasks and high turnover jobs, for instance, that required retraining all over again and inconsistent results. It was a big fat mess. A lot of our clients now just do very short videos. They use Loom, free tool, you know. Here's how you do this, 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 this. The person gets to watch the video of the person using the system and see what they're clicking on the screen. Boom, super quick to teach somebody a standard operating procedure. So we need to make sure that all of that gives us visibility at the leadership level. So we find having people assess themselves, and at we've got some terrific free assessments at smarttribesinstitute.com. Go to the resources page and then click on assessments. Help yourself. The results will be sent to you. We won't send you your people's results. They'll get them themselves. But it's really helpful to just normalize self-assessment, because so often people are like, well, my boss doesn't see how great I am. Well, just a sec. You might be great in some areas, but there's probably room for growth in a few other ones. So it's helpful to see if people are like delusional about their skills or if they're grounded, because we want to teach everybody to be real and present.
So those four factors: behavior, leadership effectiveness, which is really, we talked about those through the accelerators, mission, vision, and values. We've touched upon that. The organizational effectiveness you've unpacked. And I like what you say is that to make organizations effective, it must start with being a learning organization. And there's really five main features, right? You have to have that systems thinking, personal mastery, mental models, the shared vision, and there needs to be team learning as well to be considered a learning company.
It is so powerful to bring people together because we get to be vulnerable when we're learning together. That's why I love what IMS does. We have to learn together and have it be okay to say, I don't know. And then when we learn together, we forge these beautiful bonds of trust. Our hippocampus is lit up. We're increasing the cell density in our prefrontal cortex. We're decreasing the cell density in our amygdala. We're removing all those or reducing those safety patterns. Am I safe? Am I okay? Do I need to like look bigger than I am? And we get to enjoy our humanity with each other. We spend a lot of time at work. People talk about it a lot at the end of their lives. I spend a lot of time with people at the end of their lives. They talk about work. Work matters. You're creating your legacy now. Leaders are creating their legacy now. They have to notice that. And the legacy of a leader is in the heart of their people. People never forget those that helped them grow. Leadership is a privilege for that and many other reasons.
I love that. Such a powerful message. Before we end today, I'm just wanted to talk about ROI because everyone talks about ROI. So if you have, is there a smart tribe ROI and how can you measure that?
Yes. Okay. At the back of Smart Tribes and also our book on emotional resilience, Power Your Tribe, there is an appendix of a ton of ROI. Our clients like to track gains in emotional engagement, which is pretty easy to do. You know, if you do like a safety, belonging, mattering index, which we write about in Smart Tribes. So, emotional engagement, of course, top line and bottom line, revenue and profit, EBITDA, right? Of course, productivity, which really is how how much gets done with how many people, profit per employee, revenue per employee, etc. Um, and they also really like to track innovation and market leadership. Are we resting on our laurels or do we keep mixing it up? So those are a few. Those are a few. And seriously, there are like, I don't know, 10 pages. Pick your favorite ROI.
Final question. We've talked about a lot today. What would be the call to action for leaders to start building a smart tribe and getting teams that operate more efficiently and are brilliant together?
For starters, I would say look at your people as amazing opportunities to create something remarkable. Notice that they are emotional beings. Notice that they need communication that's effective and they need to understand specifically how to grow. And if we just focus on those three things, you will get the tremendous growth that our clients get. And when we look at all the craziness that's happening in the world, people need to have a place where they feel that they're in it with other people, that it's not like this hostile, crazy world. It's home, and then there's their team at work. And I do not like calling work teams families. No, I like calling work teams teams, like sports teams. Everybody does have to perform, everybody does have to be reliable.
Thank you so much, Christine, for joining me today. Remind our listeners how they can get in contact with you and learn more about your work.
Yes. So you can go to smarttribesinstitute.com and you can sign up for our newsletter. You can go to our fabulous resources section. Help yourself to all the good stuff there. We have tons of infographics, which, frankly, since a lot of people, especially younger people, don't read anymore, you can use infographics as a terrific teaching tool. So, thanks so much, Charles, for our time together today.
I hope this episode has provided you with valuable insights. If it has, I ask you to share it with someone who would also benefit from it. If you've been enjoying and gaining knowledge from this podcast, then subscribe to our YouTube channel where you can find all the previous episodes of the podcast and additional learning resources. You can also subscribe to the podcast on Apple or Spotify and leave up to a 5-star review.